After all the drama, all the heartbreak, Kody finally admits it. He really did love his wives.
And he finally opens up about how much his ego was crushed when everyone left and how much his confidence was built on family validation all along.
Now, after even pushing Robyn away in his angry phase, he's claiming he's finally in a place where he can be happy in a monogamous marriage. But is it real growth, or is he too scared to dive back into a lifestyle that Robyn still believes in?
Let's dive into everything Kody revealed in this episode and what it really says about him. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Sam.
And I'm Melissa.
I was raised in a family with 4 moms and 35 kids, and we were members of the FLDS Church, which is a polygamous group run by their prophet Warren Jeffs, who is now serving a life sentence in prison.
I was raised mainstream LDS in Utah. Sam and I have been married for 10 years, and we have 2 awesome kiddos.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We are back at it with another episode of Sister Wives, and this one had a little bit of pieces of lots of different storylines, but the majority of it was Kody, of course, and his whole being back in monogamy thing.
Yes, but first, before we get into that, we have to talk about Mary and Janelle meeting up to talk about Coyote Pass. They actually met up in Flagstaff at Coyote Pass, which is the first time we've seen Janelle and Mary together in a very, very long time. And them kind of just talking out some things you can tell that they just hadn't been able to talk about face to face yet. They were talking a lot about just how frustrating it is to have to get lawyers involved, to be having to beg for communication from Kody, the fact that they had hoped, and especially Mary had hoped that Kody would just do the right thing by everyone and would make this happen, but it hasn't been happening. And they talked a lot about the fact that they felt like for so many years the family was just a team, that they both of them said separately, like they never specifically got along really well together, but they always had the family in mind. They were always working as a team, putting together finances and stuff. And so the fact that it's come to this point where the family, where they're like having to fight for a piece of what the family has is like really frustrating for them both.
Yeah, and then of course there's 2 sides of the story, which we don't really trust Kody is speaking accurately in this situation, because we've seen time and time again where he says one thing and then even he himself later down the road will say something completely contrary to what he had already said. But he believes that they are just trying to fight for something that they don't really even have any stake in, or that they even have any right to. And so it's very frustrating to see him basically say, oh, they're just trying to get something that's not even theirs, and that, yeah, they may have put into it, but I put way more into it, so they don't deserve anything.
Which is just wild, because this entire time we know that pieces of money, basically Kody's saying like, well, you're the one who divorced me, so why do you think you're entitled to anything? Mm-hmm. And that's just not how divorces work in general to begin with. And then on top of it, with it being as like intricate and so different with their relationship anyway, to try to say, well, they don't deserve anything. The thing that was weirdest to me, like I get that, okay, Kody says he put more money in, so therefore he deserves some kind of bigger portion. That's something lawyers can figure out. But just the pure lack of communication, he even said, he's like, well, I'm not talking to them because I'm going to try to screw them out of this money. It's just because I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Okay, well, that could also be communicated, right? So he's choosing to just ignore Mary and ignore the situation instead of communicating, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And then he says, and then he drops it, which is how it ends up happening normally, is that it's because Robyn hasn't made up her mind of what Robyn wants to have happen.
Right.
So he's stalling for Robyn instead of saying, well, Robyn doesn't know what she wants to do with the property yet, so I'm not making a move on this. Instead, he's just ignoring the other people so that he can try to accommodate what Robyn wants.
Yeah, he has definitely moved away from the rest of his family as far as his care about taking care of and ensuring that they get what is rightfully theirs and being fair and being a good person. No. It's all about Robyn now for him. Mm-hmm. So if it doesn't affect him and Robyn, then he's not going to do anything about it. But him not doing anything about it is what is getting Mary and Janelle into these meetings with lawyers to be prepared. It's just his lack of communication. It could so easily be handled without lawyers, but he's just choosing not to talk, and therefore they're nervous, rightfully so.
Yeah, it was nice to see both of them get a little angry because Janelle's kind of been like, oh, whatever, just kind of the screw Kody mentality, like whatever, just forget about him. And Mary has been like, has fought so hard that like Cody's going to do the right thing. But Mary was a little bit mad about it. She's like, I'm mad that he's ignoring me, da da da. And she got kind of riled up. And then even Janelle got riled up and was like, listen, I get that you have this soulmate and all you cared about, that she was a diesel jeans model, but what did she say? She was like, but she didn't have to go through the broke is broke. She wasn't, keeping her bra together with pins, and she didn't go through all of that we went through at the beginning of this marriage. She comes in later in the marriage, and then now you can just be obsessed with her. Okay, fine. And I was like, ooh, it made me happy to see Janelle feisty.
So why don't you just ride off into the sunset with your diesel jean model then? She was definitely getting frustrated.
Yeah.
And so that was good to see that they are finally getting to this point where they can just speak their minds.
Yeah.
Because so much of this show, you can tell throughout the episodes that they are holding back. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered, what do they say amongst themselves behind closed doors? And we're starting to see, I think, what some of the things they were saying, but weren't willing to say in front of camera till now.
Yeah. The other storyline throughout this episode was it being Valentine's Day. You're watching Christine get to be in her happy marriage bliss of having Valentine's Day all to herself. They talked a lot between all of the different wives just about, we've heard this many times, that Valentine's Day is not for polygamists, that it makes it very difficult. Men are either trying to give the same exact present to all the wives, and the wives are unhappy that they are not getting anything unique or special, or they are comparing the gifts that they get to each other. There's basically like no winning for a plural husband on Valentine's Day. There's never going to be any winning.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose situation, but it was even said in this by, I think, was it Robyn, said that not every polygamous family is this way as far as not being able to share affection around the other people and things like that. And that was what I saw in my own family growing up. I would see my father kiss all of the mothers goodbye, in the same room, and then leave for work sometimes and things like that. So it wasn't always, or it wasn't in every family like it was in the Brown family, where you couldn't show any type of affection. In my family, we didn't celebrate holidays, including Valentine's Day.
Smart of your
father. But I imagine that if my father and mothers would have celebrated something like that, that it wouldn't have been as awkward as we see in Sister Wives.
I did think it was cool that they did show a little bit of perspective of how it came to be that way, because Robyn was the one who was saying she felt like that was a disservice to everyone, because since he couldn't show affection to any of his wives, in every social situation, he kind of felt alone. He wasn't getting any normal wifely attention, like you going up and hugging someone or touching them, or she's like, even just little things. He wasn't getting any of that. The wives weren't getting any of that. So anytime they were all together, they all had to act like they didn't have a spouse. And I agree with her on that. Like, that would be incredibly difficult. And you see a lot of the other plural families, even within sister wives, their friends that seem to have a better structure of the plural family. And you would always see a lot more affection between those families. So maybe there's something there to that. Mm-hmm. But I did think it was interesting. He talked about the fact that when him and Mary first got married, they were very affectionate all the time, which makes sense. Newlywed couples are typically very affectionate, right? And that she continued to be affectionate in front of Janelle. And Janelle's mom said to Kody that was making Janelle uncomfortable. And I think sometimes it can be like people don't notice how much of an impact someone saying something, and especially where he was coming from the LDS church, the mainstream LDS church, and he's coming to this new religion, and he's deciding to do this plural marriage thing, and he didn't see any examples of that in his life before this, and deciding to try to do it, having a mother-in-law be like, hey, that's not how that's supposed to be. I can see that sticking with him, and maybe that's what caused that ball to keep rolling throughout all his other marriages, because he felt like that's how it was supposed to be, or that's what he needed to do. Mm-hmm. And then he said, yeah, and so then I just never was affectionate with Janelle in front of everyone, and then that just became how it was in the family. And so I was like, oh, that actually, it makes sense. I can see how that would stick with him feeling like, oh crap, I'm doing this wrong, and trying to be strict the other way.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Just domino effect.
Yeah, and he also said that Mary was very clingy, but he said it almost in like a negative way. Not almost, definitely in a negative way.
Yeah.
That it was I don't know. He didn't like that she was so clingy, is what he said.
But we've heard him talk about the beginning of his and Mary's relationship so negatively so many times. But you see the pictures and you see their wedding video and stuff like that, and it's like, a newlywed couple, it's normal to be clingy and be like so excited to be all over each other. And I can also say from experience that when you are in a religion where there's not allowed to be any intimacy before marriage, sometimes, I know at least for me, like you're more clingy even after first getting married because you're finally allowed to be able to touch them and be affectionate the way that you want to be.
Yeah.
And so I think it's easy for him to look back in that lens, and he's been super negative about everything from the beginning. But the idea that she was like overly clingy in a way that he didn't want, I don't believe that, because Kody loves attention. Why wouldn't he have wanted that?
Well, and that's what I was trying to get at, is I think that it was just more of a normal relationship between the two of them. And I don't think Mary ever wanted polygamy. I think she was sort of forced into it because of her religious beliefs.
Yeah, because she was raised in it.
Yeah, but I don't think for a second that she ever would have wanted to be in a polygamous relationship of any kind. And I think that that was kind of her way of showing that once he did marry another wife, Janelle, and sitting on her lap or sitting on his lap in front of Janelle. I can just see that being this very hard place for Mary to be in, where she didn't want it to begin with, and now she's trying to prove something that, hey, I have some kind of ownership of him, because they had been married now for a little while before Janelle ever joined the family as well.
Yeah, and then you couldn't have gotten two more opposite personalities either, right? So you have Mary, who probably, it was just normal amount of affection. And then you have Janelle, who's not affectionate, no PDA, like at all. And so also to have those two separate personalities be married back to back, Mary's going to seem like a stage 5 clinger compared to someone who wants no PDA, no affection in public at all, right? So I think that also was like bad combination of going from one to the other, and then he's like, oh well, I can't have any because Janelle doesn't want any, so therefore now I can't give any affection to Mary. And that would just start off, which we know started it off so horribly rocky, because they've talked about that a lot. But Valentine's Day, Cody and Robin, Cody seemed to be like a little kid, just being so excited and happy to only have one wife to deal with for all of Valentine's Day.
You mean with Robyn later
with Robyn,
on? Yes.
Yeah, as they're on this Valentine's Day date. Another thing I wanted to mention before we talk about Cody and all of his confessions, it also got brought up between Janelle and Mary, the idea of Janelle was able to ask Mary questions about getting her spiritual release from Cody, because obviously we had heard that Cody wasn't happy with how that went down. I think there were probably a lot of rumors, and it seemed like Janelle was finally able to ask Mary the questions that she was wondering, because Janelle did talk about the fact that her faith hasn't shifted, that she's not in the same place as Christine, where she just feels like her eternal marriage doesn't matter because she doesn't believe in that spiritually. Janelle was saying that besides the polygamy aspect, her belief system is still completely intact, that she still believes in Mormonism.
Which I was honestly surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, you see what happens here and how they all go their separate ways. It just seems like they don't really follow a lot of the Mormonism type rules, I guess you can say. But I don't know. I guess you don't see them out there doing a lot of things against Mormonism.
Not Janelle either. I mean, like she was pressured into a shot once. But other than that, you don't see her drinking regularly like you see Cody and you see Christine and stuff. So I can see it.
Yeah, I don't know why. I was just kind of surprised to hear that. And so it sounds like and she was raised mainstream Mormon. So I wonder if Janelle's going to look for someone from that lifestyle or that background to potentially date in the future if she still believes in it. But I wonder where she will go, because it doesn't seem like she wants any part of plural marriage anymore. So will she go more towards the mainstream Mormon church at this point?
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see where she goes spiritually from here.
But either way, having her ask Mary questions about getting that spiritual release, because she's like, I still feel like I am married spiritually to Cody, even if we're separated. And so kind of her also realizing maybe she wants the same type of closure that Mary got, because Mary was saying, I was married, I was sealed, if I don't want to be with him in eternity, I need to get this revoked, right?
Yeah.
And Janelle saying, I think I'm in the same boat and might possibly be having Mary help her along through that process of also getting a release from her spiritual marriage as well.
And I think for Mary as well, it went a little bit beyond even that. Just the idea of being sealed to someone through eternity. I think it went more to the side of she has been hanging on to Kody for so long at this point, up until she got that release. And it was back and forth, and Kody saying, hey, we're going to make this work, and then we're not going to make this work, and I don't care about you. And now, and Mary's trying to hang on as long as possible. I think for her, it was just a big outward sign of, I am done with you, Kody.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it was really about for Mary. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying she doesn't believe in the spirituality and the eternity and all of that, but just based on what I saw, I think it was more about just proving a point. I'm done. I'm moving on.
Yeah. And it was interesting, too, that Kody, of course, got his 2 cents in about it, saying that, they wouldn't have even given her the spiritual release if I had been able to share my testimony of what happened and been able to share my thoughts, because, the woman can go in and say why they need to be released, but they won't ever give the release to the man. So I just had to let them just go with what she told them and what they thought about me, and acting like he was so innocent and just had to be the one thrown under the bus because he didn't want to stay married to her anyway. So he just had to let that happen. And we were just like rolling our eyes like, okay, Kody, whatever.
Anyone can say that. If only they had heard from me, then Yeah. You had a chance to be there, Kody. If you really care so much, why didn't you go? You were invited. Why didn't you go share your 2 cents?
Because if he had, then he wouldn't have been able to be released from her and he'd be stuck with her for eternity. That's what he was trying to say. He was like, if I went, that's why I decided not to go, because they would never give me the release for her being the way she is. It only would have been if I looked bad, so I had to let it happen.
No, you're right. That is exactly why he's claiming he didn't go. Mm-hmm. But it's just frustrating because it's just him saying things at this point.
Yes, which is what Kody does.
He didn't even give reasons why his testimony would have been so great. He didn't give any specifics. He just said, if I had only shared mine, I would look so much better and she would look so much worse.
Yeah.
What? The catfish thing, maybe?
I don't know. It's just the same bull crap. However, finally at the end, he talks about the fact that he has been just full of crap for so many seasons now. He finally admits it in a way that obviously we all knew. Maybe he's been watching the show, babe.
Ooh.
Maybe he's been watching us and been like, oh, they're right. They're right. I am an egotistical
They're right
maniac.
all along. Yeah, since we're the only ones that are pointing that out, right?
Yeah, definitely. No, all of our awesome commenters.
Right. I'm just saying there's a lot of people that are out there talking about and very frustrated with the way that he has been all along, including all of you. Yes. Also, before we move on, because in this same topic of being released and how hard it was for a man to be released, he basically said that marriage is a cult. He said, my religion isn't the cult, meaning the AUB, because he still believes in the AUB somehow. And
maybe.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. He says, my religion isn't a cult, but marriage is a cult because it's so easy to get into, but so hard to leave. I don't know. That was
wild.
Just so frustrating to hear him say that because
he makes it sound like all of his marriages are manipulative, controlling, that they suck you in and they force you into it. And it's like, okay, the reason that you are, if you want to say that he was manipulated into those marriages, then you'd have to say that his religion's a cult.
Mm-hmm.
Because if not, why would he have chosen to live plural marriage? Why would he have continued to get married to women that he wasn't attracted to or never loved? Okay, so all of those reasons that you're saying that marriage is a cult all trace back exactly to your religious beliefs that made you go into those spiritual marriages in the first place.
Exactly. Very well said. That's what I was trying to say, is that it was because of the religion he belonged to that he had such an awful experience with marriages. I don't think he would say or feel that his marriage with Robyn is a cult, right? Yeah. And that's how it should be. That's how marriages should be. That you're happy together, you choose each other, you want this. I mean, saying marriage is a cult is like saying that eating ice cream is a cult. You know, it's like seriously though, it's just so silly. It's like, oh, I just couldn't put it down. It's so hard to leave. The ice cream, I had to hang on to it. I don't know why it just hit me in a way, and maybe it's because I'm happily married, and maybe some other people agree with him, but I was very frustrated to hear him try to say that.
Yeah, and obviously he said it in a way that he's going off this idea of like if it's easy to get into and hard to leave, right? And on our last episode, we had talked about the idea of like what makes something a cult, right? And a lot of people did respond with that answer. It depends on what happens when you're trying to leave, right? But like you said, this idea that most people, I would say, can say that leaving a marriage, you can choose to just walk away. Mm-hmm. Anyway, right? But because of his circumstances, if he feels like it was super, super hard beyond just emotional turmoil, it would have been because the religious aspect again.
Right. And I understand, and we've heard from people that divorce is like the most awful thing in the world. So maybe that's what he was trying to say, is it's hard to get out of because of how difficult the emotional toll is on a person, but that's, once again, he is at fault here. Yeah. He can't blame anyone. Yeah. He can't blame someone. And to your point, which we'll get to in a minute, he admitted that he had been wrong. And the things he was saying during these times of breakup and all of the hardships that he was going through, he was just spewing out words because he was angry.
Yeah, which was kind of crazy to see Kody admit something like that, because when he's at dinner with Robyn and she starts asking whether or not he's going to be okay being in monogamy or if he does want plural marriage again. And he admitted that he was angry. And then in the interview saying, I was saying that I never loved my wives. He's like, but that was my ego talking because I was so hurt. It was easier to be like, well, I just never loved them anyway. Just like a kid would say, well, you have that toy that I really, really like. Well, I never really wanted that toy anyway. You have fun with that over there. I never even wanted it. Yep. Right? Like it was just purely out of his ego, which all of us have known this whole time. But it was still nice to hear Kody say those words out loud and to say that it was all bull crap and that he really did love his wives.
Exactly. He can actually admit it now and say yes. And obviously, it seems like he's in a better place at this point. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It's hard for me to be rooting for him and Robyn because of the position they put all of the other wives in. But, man, I was also getting very sick of just hearing him talk and just being so angry about everything, right? And Robyn, of course, isn't perfect in this situation either. We know that she took advantage of certain situations. Mm-hmm. But once again, how much of what she was doing was because of the way that, or the attention she was getting from Kody, I wonder. Because it was almost from the very beginning that Kody... Well, it was from the very beginning, before they even got married, and this was brought up as well, that they kissed before they got married, which was a huge deal in that type of lifestyle and religion. And so it just seemed like he found this shiny new thing that he really wanted, and that was the end of everything else. He just focused all his attention on that.
Yeah. I will say it made me happy to hear that when Janelle and Mary were having their separate conversation as well, they both said that they didn't believe Kody. They're like, oh, when he said that he never loved us, they're like, I don't buy that for a second. Like, at least they knew and were standing up for what they knew was to be true, no matter what he was saying. Although I looked at Sam and I'm like, can you imagine how hurtful that would be? Like, for both of them, where they really did love Kody back. And obviously they knew that there was reciprocated feelings there. And then to basically be like gaslit. Like, oh, well, that wasn't a real thing. That must all be in your head because I never loved you. Even though I told you that and I showed you that and I felt that for you and you felt it back from me. No. That's all in your head. It would just be so frustrating. Like I said, I was happy that they got a little bit mad this episode because they deserve that. But it would be so infuriating. So hopefully this was a little bit of validation for them to hear him admit that he was wrong. Robyn talked about the fact that, and Kody even said to Robyn that he apologized for how angry, how he was he's just such a jerk. And just so angry all the time that he talked about the fact that he thought about leaving Robyn too, just being done with like all of it. Like, I'm just done. But it does seem like now that they're in a better place, him and Robyn are going to continue in their marriage and that things hopefully will go well. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say never. Can't say that all of us feel this way, but hopefully everybody can end up happy, right? I want that for everybody. Even Kody, who's not my favorite person in the world, he still deserves to be able to have happiness. Robyn still deserves to be able to find happiness. And so do all the other wives. And I hope everybody finds their person that they can be happy with, same way that Christine feels now.
Yeah. And some big victims in all of this has been the kids all along. I just feel so bad for the kids being mixed in with all of the drama and all of the chaos of this family. But according to Kody, now there's no guarantee that it went as he said it did, but he said that he went to Utah to visit with some of the kids, Aspen being one of them, and that it went really well. And it seems, according to him, that relationship is starting to repair. And I can understand how difficult that would be when, you see, and Christine said, I never bash on Kody to my kids. That's probably true, but at the same time, she has said plenty of negative things about Kody publicly. Whether or not she specifically says it to her kids or her kids just hear it around, whatever, it's going to paint a negative light on that person. And don't get me wrong, the kids have seen plenty of faults of their father, right? They don't need someone to tell them, but I can see how it would be very difficult to have a good relationship with him during all that went down. So I've always hoped that there could be a good relationship between the parents. So I hope that it's true, and I hope that relationship is being better.
Between him and his kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So another episode down. Man, I don't know how much longer this season is going to go. If there's any signs of a next season now that everybody is so separate. But I think everybody is starting to heal. Janelle has her farm. Christine has her husband. Hopefully we can get Mary happily ever after married off as well, because I think she really wants that and deserves that.
Yeah.
So hopefully, if nothing else, this series can wrap up with everybody just doing better and okay. And we'll see.
Yeah, there's still, obviously, we know there's a lot more to the story, things that we've heard from the news and articles and things. So I know there's a lot to be covered here, and I'm curious how much this show touches on, but we're here for it. I hope you have enjoyed, and thanks for being along with us on this journey of Sister Wives. It's been a long journey, but thanks for being here with us, and we look forward to talking with you soon.
Talk to y'all soon.